Republicans, don't we now have the exact same thing going on thanks to the Democrats? Our first guest is Republican Congressman Tom Latham from Iowa. Welcome to Happy Hour, Congressman. Congressman,
well, it's great to be with you.
Here's my question to get started with. You voted for the 2008 stimulus bill, which I think can certainly be called big government. Do you think voters will be able to differentiate between those big government policies from the Republican leadership and all the big government bills that have been passed under recent Democratic leadership?
I don't know where you get your information. I voted against the TARP bill and the stimulus
Not TARP,
bill.
The stimulus of 2008, $160 billion from the Republican administration.
Right. At that time, the economy was starting to slow. That it was felt that a modest investment at that time would turn the corner. But what's gone on since then, the $700 billion TARP bill, $862 billion now stimulus package, none of which have worked. And it's just a huge expansion of the federal government, obviously, that's going on. It's anything with Bush on steroids, basically.
And, sir, take that one step further. We just heard, I referenced it, that that Social Security will be not bankrupt, I should say, it will take in less this year than it will pay out, so therefore it's on its way to insolvency. Any surprises? What's your opinion of the CBO scoring $940 billion health care package?
Well, it's not $940 billion. When you look at the 10 years where the coverage actually starts, which is 4 years from now, and extend that out with outlays, you're talking about a $2.5 trillion bill that is not paid for. They're double counting as far as any savings in Medicare. First time in history that we robbed Medicare to pay for a separate entitlement. It's going to be very detrimental to small businesses, individuals certainly. It's going to keep our unemployment high because small business people are frozen in place today. They see these increased costs coming their way, the new mandates, all of this that's going to hit them right between the eyes, and we're going to just continue to have a very sluggish economy with little hope of new employment.
Sir, Sunday night when the votes passed, one of the first things you were quoted as saying is the overwhelming lesson learned here is that Washington is not listening to the American people. You're a small business owner. What does that mean for the small businesses of the world going forward?
Well, it means a lot more taxes, a lot more mandates. It means that you've taken away any incentive to increase salaries for your employees because you're going to be punished when you do that. All the small business people are going to be hit with new taxes as far as their income tax. Now they're going to be taxed 3.8% on unearned income on top of that, which is the way that most small businesses get their money. So this is a huge new tax, and again, that tax doesn't go to Medicare as it was supposed to be designated. It goes to fund a new entitlement, so it's going to be a huge drag on the economy. It's going to paralyze small businesses along with the capital gains tax rates going up, marginal tax rates going up, what cap and trade will do to a small business. All of these things are very scary for anyone who's trying to hire somebody today.
Representative, as you talk that through, you know, what scares me is that so much of the targeted tax tricks for individuals, for small businesses, don't seem to last as long as the corporate tax tricks that are loaded into this bill. But it comes down to that premise itself. You guys in the Republican Party, too, use those same targeted tax tricks. You just sort of want to angle them and use slightly different nuanced tax tricks. How do we have, what about just simplifying things?
Well, I'm all for it. Let's simplify it, but no one's talking about doing that here. The leadership in Congress today, all they want to do is make things more complicated. When you look at what the tax ramifications of this are very, very detrimental to any kind of hope for new job growth. Again, there's all kinds of perverse incentives here for people not to hire new folks, not to increase their wages, because you're punished if you do that. It's crazy.
Congressman, I'm going to take you to task a little bit here.
Okay.
Look, early on, we were told this health care package was going to reduce the cost, the health care costs. Your insurance rates are going to go down. You're going to create competition. About a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, we started hearing, no, it's not going to reduce it. It's just going to simply slow the speed at which it goes up. At that point, Republicans should have jumped up and down on every table they could and said, hey, you lied to us. You told us. You sold the American people on one thing, and you're really going to give us this bait and switch at the last minute. Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you guys come out and really call them out on that?
Well, we did. As soon as we didn't have numbers at that time, but there's just no question that that was going to increase premium costs rather than cutting the premiums $2,500 as the president has said. It's actually going to increase premiums by $2,100. But the idea, and also the president said this bill would never be above $900 billion. Even his minimum, well, I believe it's $2.5 trillion, but says it's $940 billion. So there's been a lot of misinformation. I think it was interesting today when the president was in my home state, was talking about now you're going to have the same coverage that members of Congress have. Well, that's interesting that he exempted himself. Harry Reid exempted himself. The Speaker Pelosi exempted herself. So apparently it's good for everybody else, but it's not good enough for the president, the majority leader, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Sir, quickly, before we have to run, what happens next? Where do we go from here with this?
Well, I think we've got to look at it. I think when we get home and over the Easter break, I think a lot of folks who voted for this are going to feel the outrage at home. And one reason that they wanted to pass this thing and jam it through was they didn't want people to have to go home and listen to their constituents because they knew if they did, they'd come back and they would never support it. So I think you're going to hear an awful lot of folks at home express their outrage about what has happened here with this bill. I think there's going to be a huge push to replace certainly large parts of this bill with some common sense solutions that introduce competition, that actually bring down the cost of health care rather than this bill that raises the cost of health care.
Representative Tom Latham, thank you.
Sir, can I ask you real quick before we let you go? Are you expecting the town halls to be as active and kind of voice, I don't know, rowdy as they were last summer?
I think they will be, because I think people are genuinely involved in what's going on.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing I hear continuously from home is that nobody seems to be listening in Washington to the real concerns, and that's jobs. It's getting the economy going. And we're doing all these other things. Thank you.
Amen to that. Please simplify and give us some confidence and quit with all this nonsense welfare.
Thank you,
Tom Latham. All right, guys.
Thank you.
All right, people. Let's talk welfare. Dial up that